How to be happy. That's the theme of today's visual journaling session. My creative process is quite private. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in terms of how I do my creative process and all about visual journaling. What I'm going to show you today, we're going to finish this page, or at least I'm going to keep working on it, How to Be Happy. This was a piece I started. It's a collage piece within my sketchbook. It's actually not a sketchbook. It's my daily diary visual journal, which I've got a couple other videos about this that I'll link in the description box below the video. So I started this during the creative practice class and wanted to come back and do something. This is how far I got. I always work on my own visual journals while I'm teaching to give people examples. And I also think as a teacher, it's really important to take the same risks that the students are teaching. So I am going to try to walk and chew gum at the same time and put some paint on this page. I have an idea for what I want to do here, and let's just see what happens. I've got paint here, and I'm going to try to describe what I'm doing and why I'm doing it as I go. All right, so I hope you enjoy this. I have covered up this side of my journal because I call my creative process visual journaling because I think of it as a journal more than an artist sketchbook. Even though I do lots of visual journals inside of artist sketchbook, this particular visual journal is one I keep inside of a page-a-day book. And instead of using it for schedules and to-do lists, I capture all my thoughts, ideas, life moments, and memories, along with collage, photos, sketches, and paintings. So it kind of ends up being like a file cabinet for my creative brain. And I always keep lots of collage supplies on hand as well as paints. The paints I'm using here are a big variety. I already can tell I squeezed out too much paint here. But it's a variety of craft paint that you can get at the, at Michael's or a craft store, something like that, or even the office supply sometime. This is my paint that I get in Mexico here. And this is some neon pink. I'm going to put that here. I've been painting lots of abstract landscapes and abstract flowers. I'm not a trained painter. I do art for my happiness and well-being primarily. So I believe that creative expression is more important than the product, and that anyone can learn technique. And why I love working in visual journals is because it's a place where I can experiment and play and have fun and not have the pressure to make anything specific. So it's a very internal process. And like I said, this type of video is a real experiment. I usually don't work on camera or work in front of people unless I'm in a live class. So I'm going way outside of my comfort zone here. And I hope it will all make sense. Okay, so I've got a bunch of paint. I'm just going to make sure everything's in frame. I've squeezed out a bunch of paint. One thing I like to keep handy, this is something, if you do collage art or you do art journaling or you do any type of visual journaling, you'll know that this is a treasure trove. I love to cut out words and phrases out of magazines. Look, paint with confidence. That feels like it wants to go down on the page next. So I have lots of cut out phrases, words, even letters, and then I have a pile of my own scraps that I use in collage. I make drawings and cut them out a lot. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. These are some badges for Write Club at class I'm teaching. So I love cutting up drawings. I keep notes while I'm working a lot, and that note says A Curious Wizard for some reason. I don't know, maybe that wants to be out here. Maybe that will go with the theme. And there's my dog Katie. I'm always drawing her. I'm always painting clouds. So these kind of things make me happy. We'll see what wants to show up. I don't know. Why I poured all that pink paint out is because I mentioned I'm doing a lot of abstract florals. And actually I have a couple here that I pulled out to show you how abstract I mean. One thing I do is I'll start drawing or sketching things in my visual journal, and then I'll take it to some other form. Like, for example, this is a canvas panel that I had glued some gift wrap on, and then I painted over it. So it's got collage underneath, and you can see a little bit of the design in the background. And then when I'm practicing, I like to just paint the same thing many different times. I guess this is how I'm learning how to paint. And this feels very satisfying for me. So I've got this on another type of board, and then this one is a whole, just like a piece of wood. Where do I get these pieces? Sometimes pieces of wood I just find. This seems like it's cut very nicely. I don't know, I think it was from a construction project. So those are my abstract florals. Maybe I'll keep one out here for reference. Why not? Because I was thinking about this theme of how to be happy. And for me, it's making art, being in nature, and connecting with friends. So if I could do all those three things at once, hanging out with friends, making art somewhere in nature, or traveling together, or at someone's house, all the better. Just makes me really happy. So I thought, in light of that theme, I'd go ahead and paint some flowers on this page. And that's all I have. I have a creative impulse, and that's it. It said more abstract flowers. And this paper that I'm mixing my paint on, I have some videos about that too. Let me get another piece of paper under here. So exactly what I'm doing here is I keep scrap paper down. I want to put something underneath so it doesn't go on the page underneath. And so I just have piles and piles of these scrap papers to protect the pages underneath, like so. And then they just can end up building up. And then I make collage paper out of these. So I have 2 videos on how to make your own collage paper just out of plain copy paper. Which I'll also link in the description. I'm already loving how there's this pattern back here that you can kind of see. All right. These are all kind of looking like pink clouds to me at this point, but that's okay. Pink clouds make me happy too. In my abstract landscapes, a lot of times the sky is pink or the clouds are pink. You've seen pink sunsets, haven't you? Aren't they delightful? I'm noticing I want to covering up some of this dark background behind the flowers, but we'll see. Now the page is a little bit wetter than probably. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. I'm wondering if you do visual journaling or art journaling. How do you work? What are your favorite supplies? I like to keep the supplies really simple, even though I do paint paintings. In my visual journal, the kind of paint that works best is acrylic paint. Like I said, the craft paint, or even this student grade Liquitex. That's what this is here as well. The cheaper the better. It will dry fast, nothing's precious. You don't have to worry about messing anything up. I guess I'm obliterating most of this background. I think what I'll do once this dries is come back with some markers and do some drawing. The cool thing about this type of paint too is it dries pretty quickly. However, I am putting it on quite thick. So it's going to take a while. We'll see. So instead of washing my brush, I'm just gonna, I do get water on the brush, but I'm gonna just paint some more paper. That's how I end up with so much of this paper. I've got a whole pile of it under here. See how it turns out by putting the page, these are like my sketchbooks. And sometimes they just end up very pretty, and that's where I got the idea to just start using it as my own collage paper. And then I don't want to keep going on it. So here's another one. And they just keep building up layers. I never like to waste paint. It's not like an expense thing necessarily, it's more like environmental. Like I just think if I'm washing my brushes and dumping them, I don't want to dump paint down the sink, so I just try to use up all the paint that's on my palette. And a lot of times, I said this during the collage paper making tutorials, is a lot of times I like what ends up on my scraped off collage, accidental collage paper more than what I'm doing here. Like here I'm like, realize I'm trying to make something, even though it's in my journal, it's like, I still want it to be pretty. I want to love it, right? So then I notice, oh, I'm trying to make something. I'm trying to make flowers. I find that what's most satisfying is to let it be pretty abstract, instead of trying to be realistic, if that makes sense. All right, I'm having a wild idea to paint over this whole thing. And I'm gonna wipe it back a little. Ooh, wow, that stained quickly. That's better. I just got a wet wipe. The towel I was using didn't work so well, but I wanted to bring some of that light color back. My work can often get very monochromatic and not have any contrast left in it, so I wanted to leave that sort of beige background there. And I like to scrape into my paintings. It's so funny how thin this paper is. It really can take a beating though. But, I can't scrape into it as hard as I could if I was working on a canvas. Okay. I could see that happening. Maybe she's up here. Let's see. I like the green contrast. That's nice too. Whenever you're collaging, it's cool to cut things out and turn them over. You might like what's on the other side better. A curious wizard. I'm so curious why I wrote that. should be a pink cloud. Maybe something like that. What do you think? I know I'm not trying to make art, I'm just playing in my journal, but it's so fun. I'm not sure, I don't want to. I am not sure. That would be an obvious place to put it. All right, well, I'm going to let this dry a little. We'll see. We'll see. Katie. I think I'm just going to leave her there for the moment. So, also, I do want to let this dry because maybe I'll go back in and do some drawing with marker. But I could always do that after I glue her on as well. Let's have some tea. Okay, so I used up the rest of the paint to make several more pages of collage paper in progress. And as I mentioned, I have a couple really great videos, well, at least they're my most watched videos on how to make your own collage paper. It's kind of funny. Thousands of people are watching it. It's so funny to me. Anyway, I had this idea while I was finishing up using that paint and washing my brush and drinking my tea, I wanted definitely to put some clouds under Katie. Hi, Katie. But I wanted them to be bigger. And then I also looked through some of my red and pink collage scraps. That's what this box is. And the Curious Wizard cloud is going to end up in there because I'm not using it this time. But I found some pieces of polka dot scrapbook paper, decorative paper. So if you have scraps from your other projects, don't throw them out, just save them. I know you're probably not throwing out your scraps of paper, are you, if you're into paper arts? So what I did here was I had this idea that what if I made a cloud out of some decorative paper? So this is origami paper, and it's almost like all the same tones. And then I've got polka dots, which made me quite excited. This is my last bit of these wonderful polka dots. So I'm not sure. And I wasn't quite sure what size. So what I did was sketch out, and this is how I end up with so many clouds, because I have to sketch them out. But I think this is about the right size, and I can cut these out also to check it. I love to make my own drawings for collage elements, and I'm just using the back of a government form actually from getting my passport renewed or something like that. So I like to make my own drawings and then cut them out. It's just such a fun way for me to collage. Have you ever tried drawing things and then cutting them out? And I also like to, even when I do collage with things I cut out of magazines or books, I'm not one of those precisely accurate cutters of paper, and I do like to see my borders. And it's all a matter of personal preference. And then I always save the little cutouts because then they could be glued on elsewhere, and these all become collage elements. And I like it even better like that. Look at the form sticking out there. Oh, that's super cool. Now I'm liking this. Okay. Happy accidents. It's all a happy accident. Yeah, I think it's cool, but I'm going to save that for another time. I'm going to go with this original idea of making some clouds out of these, about this size. And maybe it would even go a little bit around the page or something like that. We'll see. It's all an experimentation. So I'm going to draw a cloud. One tip I like to give people is if you're going to draw something on your decorative pretty paper or something you've cut out of a magazine, is if you turn it upside down and do your drawing and then cut it out, you often will end up with some fun, happy accidents rather than trying to draw some precise if you're drawing on the page, on the side where you can see the image, you can get stuck in perfectionism. Clearly, that is not my problem here, being perfectionistic. This is rather an oblong cloud, isn't it? Let's see. And again, I just love these things. Oh, hi, Rocky. Come on up here. Sube. Vámonos. Ven. Come on. Come on. Ven. Come on. Go ahead. Eso. Okay. All right. So there's a polka dot cloud, but what's missing is my black background. So I think I can just add that with a brush pen. However, I think I'll glue it down first. I'm experimenting with some new ink pens, and some of them I've found, will fade. Like if I glue this down and then I wanted to paint something else, the ink might smear because it's water soluble. So unlike these are actually photocopies that I made, so they don't tend to run. And I'm going to make another one. Whoops. I have no idea if any of this is making sense. Feel free to leave a comment. Yes, it makes sense. No, it doesn't. And if you're finding this helpful, entertaining, useful, consider liking the video. It's how YouTube ends up showing my videos to people, and how you probably came across this if you don't follow me or weren't a subscriber and this just happened up in your feed, is because someone liked it and they watch similar videos to you. So that really helps with however YouTube works. It's kind of magic to me how it all works. So I think that is very fun. And why not have polka dots and flowers? I don't know. Now I'm liking the flowers better. What do you think? That is so fun. I'm going to glue it down. I'm going to glue it down before I overthink it. That's what I'm going to do. has it kind of around here somewhere. Cool. All right. So and I might as well glue Katie down too while I'm at it, right? All of my dogs are rescues. They are from the streets of Mexico where I live. They all have their own story. But this little puppy, well, she was a little puppy and lived, on the streets of Oaxaca City. And she kept following us home after, I was out walking the other dogs. And she kept following us home from the park. How can you say no to that cute face? It's like, come on in, come off the street. Yeah. Hey, how to be happy. Rescue some dogs. Paint some flowers. Make some clouds. Oh, that could happen. Yes, that could happen. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I'm doing is, this is getting sticky. I use my glue stick on top of a scrap piece of paper so that, I'm not getting glue everywhere. As you can see, I'm a bit of a messy worker here, messy visual journaler, but it's quite happifying. All right. So I can glue those down there or cut them off. But they've got glue on them, so they're gluing. Okay. All right. These little scraps I cut out from my polka dot cloud, they wanted to go on the page as well. So how to be happy. This is how making art a regular part of my life is the best way I know to be happy. And what's cool about that is it's happiness that comes from the inside out. It's not dependent upon any person or circumstance outside of me. And the way I define happiness, I don't know if you've ever thought about what actually makes you happy or how would you define happiness. But for me, it's a sense of calm, centered, grounded feeling of well-being. And my well-being is dependent on me. It's up to me to cultivate that garden. Does that make sense? So all of that is conveyed for me in this page, all the things I've been talking about. So that's something else. I don't know if I'm going to start using some Posca pens. This is a new art material for me. They're kind of expensive, but I love the way they don't smell. I've tried using some other types of permanent markers or paint markers, and I'm sensitive to smells. I can't really tolerate anything toxic in my art supplies, so these don't have any odor at all, which is amazing. So that's fun. Okay. So I'm happy to, these are new. This is probably like the fanciest type of art supply I'm using, you know, except for the paint I use for my paintings. So I'm just getting to know how these work, really. Let's see. Some are lighter. I did just get the brush pen in black, which I was playing with here a little bit. And I think what I'm going to do, remember how I said so with this brush pen, I'm going to go ahead and outline the clouds. It's a bold move, but I feel like, why not? I feel like this whole piece needs a little bit more contrast. I'm not totally sure about that, but oh well. That's the cool thing, is I could always go paint over that if I didn't like it. I'm not so in love with that black line, but oh well. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to overthink it anymore. Not that I've really been overthinking it, but yeah. Definitely want to paint over that. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm just sticking my finger in the paint. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So just soften that line and you can still see the polka dots, sort of, kind of. I like it so much better now. Happy accidents. Guess you could use a wet wipe on it. Oh yeah. Wow. Oh, that's so fun. So for right now, this page feels complete. A lot of times I will come back and add something later, but it's very full. A lot of layers have happened on this single page. And most importantly, it's allowed me a chance to just play with paint and collage and cutting up paper in my visual journal, not having to make anything necessarily super artistic, but just to meditate on this idea of what makes me happy, how art is very healing for me. Art is medicine. This is part of what makes me happy, for sure. This seems like a very good place to stop for now. I may come back and add some more things onto this page later. Do let me know if you'd like to see other types of visual journaling and art journaling content like this, just leave me a note in the comments. I try to respond to all the comments and I do read them all. And I'd love to know what your thoughts are, how I can help you get more creative in your everyday life without any art experience, how to use your visual journal or art journal as a practice for mental health and emotional well-being.